Welcome everyone to Real Estate with Gwen Price, and we're doing our monthly market update. And unfortunately, my broker of record, Lana Watier, couldn't join us this morning, but I'm with Trina Tallon, who's a mortgage agent with Neighbourhood Dominion Lending. Hi,
Morning,
Trina.
Gwen.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. How are you today?
Good. Kind of a rainy, dreary day, so I'm not able to get out in the garden, but hopefully, I think it's going to be better the rest of the week, I hear. So I'm
It
looking
will for
forward to
sure.
that.
Then I can get out and get planting all those hostas that I bought.
Oh, yeah. Well, I kind of salvaged some of mine from another spot, but we'll see how they do this year. But yeah, it's good therapy to get out and dig in the dirt.
It is.
The market is still pretty frustrating, and it helps to be able to have some outlet for that. And
Absolutely.
as we were chatting, I mean, we're still having multiple offers. And I was telling you again last night, I think this one client of mine, it's probably 6, 7 offers we've done, and she just hasn't been able to secure anything because she's in a price range where, I mean, she's actually up to 600,000. You would think, oh, there wouldn't be that many people, but it is in a price range. Anything from around the 400, and that is still people. There's lots of people looking for that sort of thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm finding that more. It's starting to turn. This is just my experience right now. Where the not lower price, but the 300,000s and a little bit less, I'm starting to see more and more with financing conditions in them. And I'm starting to see a lot of the higher priced houses with competing and no financing condition or any conditions for that matter.
Yeah, well, and this is probably hard to see this graph here, but the most popular price range for up to April is 250 to 300. There was 203 sales so already this year. So that price range, that's kind of first time buyers and maybe somebody moving up from a semi, a single family. But yeah, there is sort of I find there's a bit of a shift in that not everything is going well over list price. Some is kind of hovering just below or just at, or because some are still, they're going 80, 100,000 over list price. We're still seeing that. And in fact, the average sale to list ratio so far this year is 106%. So that tells you on average, they're going over list price. But our prices, our average sale price is not going up by leaps and bounds. It's up about 12% since the end of 2020. So that hasn't changed too much. I think last month we were up about 10%. So there's not a huge gain. There was at the beginning of the year. So there may be a little bit of a shift. And our average sale price right now is about getting close to 390, and we were at about 385-ish sort of thing. So, but sales are up quite a bit from last year, and listings are up. So the more listings are coming on, the more sales there are. And of course, if we keep having more listings coming up, there will be more supply. So then we're going to start to see things maybe settle down a bit, because that's been our biggest problem, is not having enough listings.
Well, CMHC has put out a report that they're still expecting a 13% increase over the next 12 months kind of thing in a lot of markets.
Yeah.
And we're still being, I'm still reading in publications that Sudbury's one of the lowest price markets for all the amenities that we have and our location and things like that. So,
well, and I think Sudburyans are still thinking, oh my God, that's crazy. These are crazy prices. But when you compare us to right across Canada, we're well below the Canadian average. And certainly anybody who's, again, people from down south, Toronto, that area, they're looking at us as a bargain, because our prices are low. And if they're looking as investors that maybe want to, rent out some of these properties, our rents are fairly high compared to the average sale price. So it looks like a good deal to them.
For sure.
But even Sudburyans, I mean, a lot of the deals are not out of towners. They're people in town, and it's still that whole COVID factor that people, I think they want to have a place, a sanctuary, from all the craziness that's going around us. COVID is definitely a factor, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like
sure.
what's going on in the mortgage market? Are the price the interest rates going up at all, or where are we staying with interest rates?
Well, I heavily promote variable with clients all the time, and the reason for that is just a bit of an example. One of my clients that just bought a house, and the mortgage amount's going to be about $500,000, let's say. So I know that's not an average price, but this is what's fresh in my head. And a 5-year fixed versus a 5-year variable, he was saving $28,000 over his term just in interest.
Wow.
In going with variable. And even if the variable rate goes up by 0.5%, even if the prime rate goes up by 0.5%, it's still less than what the fixed rate is. And in the first couple of years in your mortgage, that's when you pay the most amount of interest.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. So you can convert the variable to a fix at any time during the term. So why not get the biggest bang for your buck in the first couple of years with the Bank of Canada saying that they're going to hold the rate? So that's what they're anticipating, holding the rate. And folks need to understand that that prime rate that the government has, that affects everything. You know what I mean? Car loans, lines of credit, any other kind of loan, any kind of credit card, everything's kind of based on that.
Yeah.
And what a lot of folks don't realize that the 5-year fixed rate, 68% of Canadians break their mortgage within the 5 years, mostly because of either wanting to refinance to take equity out, or because they're selling and they're not buying another house.
Yeah.
Or even if they are buying another house, the option's better to break the mortgage and pay the penalty than to port, let's say. And the banks love getting people into 5-year fix because they know that statistic.
Yeah.
And they're going to make a ton of money on a penalty.
Yeah.
And variable, it's only a 3 months interest only penalty if you break. So a lot of people are nervous about the variable, and it's because of the fact that the banks promoted the fixed for so many years, forever. Everything's always been based on that. But I'm a huge believer in variable.
What is the range right now, like for a variable? What do we have?
On a 5-year variable, you're looking at about 1.35 to 1.45.
Okay.
And on a 5-year fixed, this is on fully featured mortgages, you're looking at anywhere from 1.99 to 2.09 kind of thing.
Still phenomenally low, aren't they? I mean,
oh my God, it's free money.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's like, again, I'm showing my age because of how long I've been doing this. Like, that's unbelievably cheap, right?
Well, and it truly is. And for me, my number one priority with my clients, after coming to understand who they are and what their plans are and things like that, is how are you going to get out of this if you have to? And what's it going to cost you? Because that, to me, is more important. That's the conversation that you have before you start talking about rate. So if I have a single person who's coming to me and buying a house, I'm like, listen, 5 years is a long time. Are you sure that you're not thinking about possibly getting into a relationship and having to sell and all this kind of stuff? You need to think about these things and not just what your parents tell you about going with a fixed rate kind of thing. So,
well, I mean, for some people, the fixed rate, that's security, right? And that's why they sort of lean towards.
Oh, and I understand for sure.
But yeah, there's reasons for doing everything, right? But I mean, definitely banking isn't what it was before. I mean, now there's so many different I can't even keep up. And that's why I definitely refer people to mortgage specialists, because there is so many different things that the government comes up with every now and then, some little twist, some little turn, and you can't go on the internet and find all the answers if you go down this rabbit hole of trying to figure things out. So you do really need to talk to a specialist that understands mortgages in and out, because and we keep talking about the same thing, people getting pre-approved because they go on the internet again and plunk in a bunch of numbers. But numbers is one thing, but it's all where do those numbers come from, and how do you prove where they come from, right? It's
You're right. And so one thing that I'll tell folks that they should do, just because someone's given you a pre-approval, you need to do a little bit more due diligence than just getting that piece of paper and getting told that you can go in and write an offer, write an unconditional offer. If they haven't asked you for pay stubs, T4s, letters of employment, proof of down payment, I know it's a lot of paperwork, but if they have not asked you for all of this, you're running the risk of potentially writing an offer that you should not be writing and being stuck in it.
Yeah,
I see it all the time. My co-agents at Neighbourhood Dominion Lending Centres, the guys that I work with here in the office, they see it all the time where a client's gone and done a pre-qualification or pre-approval, but their credit hasn't been pulled.
Mm-hmm.
They're running to get income documents for us because they've never been asked for them. And they're not you need to have your taxes done. This is very important nowadays.
Yes. Well, and that's why, like, and it isn't that people have to, the very first thing they have to do is talk to a mortgage specialist, because in this market, you can't be shopping for a house and writing an offer and the seller is relying on that information. They're believing you when you say you're pre-qualified. They believe the realtor, but sometimes the realtor's still in the dark, right? Because they don't know what the client's given to the bank, and that documentation is so important. And these are people's lives, right? The seller's relying on, everybody's relying on this to be the truth, and that it is, that you are qualified.
The realtors that I work closely with call me now and say, are they really pre-approved?
Yeah. Or is it just a story? Well, and honestly, there's such a lot of misunderstanding by the public of what pre-approval is.
For sure.
They just think, okay, yeah, the bank said I can afford this range, but did you give them everything they need? That in order to be fully approved, you need to have all that documentation.
And it's tough. Right.
And because of COVID, it is taking longer to get some of these letters from the employers and pay stubs and all of those kinds of things, or whatever you need, right?
And we do live in a city where we have multiple entities that have extremely funky pay systems, where they will tell the client, their employee, that, you are getting paid this an hour, and you're also getting paid a bonus per hour. Okay. And so a lot of people think that, they're getting 20 as their wage, and they're getting 20 as a bonus, so they make $40 an hour, and they've only been in the job for 6 months. That second $20 doesn't count unless the letter states it's guaranteed, and then the pay stub backs up what the letter says. So income has, because of COVID become a very complicated things that, lenders used to let go of in the past. They're not so much anymore. Like, if we have a letter that you're guaranteed 44 hours a week, but your pay stub year to date only equates to 40 hours a week, that's all that's going to be used.
Yeah. So we just have to keep drilling it into people that they have to talk to a mortgage specialist, that they have to have their documentation, excuse me, in place, because it's so important, especially in this competitive market. And going in unconditional is a gamble. You really have to understand what you're doing when you're going in unconditional.
For sure. And it's like I explain to every client what the positives are and what the negatives are, and just let them know from a financing perspective what's going to go on if they go in without conditions, which a lot of people are fine going in without conditions, but there are some people that just definitely cannot do it.
No, it's, I guess there's a bit of a risk taker in some people because it is a risk, but educated risks, hopefully. And that's why they need to, be really thinking about things. But yeah, no, I mean, Sudbury's doing pretty well through all of this.
Oh,
excuse me. And it's interesting. I mean, there's lots of people definitely suffering through all of the effects of COVID. Their businesses are in trouble, but there's a lot with the mining going on, and certainly the hospital, and people are making good wages through both of those employers. But yeah, there's lots of things going on in the city. It's not doom and gloom, and people feel like the bottom's going to fall out at some time, but I don't feel that. I feel that at some point it will kind of settle down, but that's the way it's going to be right across the country too.
Mm-hmm. And for those of us that are fortunate enough to be thriving, I think it's important for us to remember to give back in different ways. The Elgin Street Mission always, there's no one in particular that's just top of mind to me because I donated to them and hear what's going on the radio, and because those particular entities are there and have been overwhelmed because of what's happening in our city right now in Canada and things like that. So, every little bit helps. Even if you donate like a can of coffee or some food. A lot of the grocery stores have bags already at the end of the grocery line. Just slip the cashier a 20 and throw the, I like to think that those of us that are doing well and people who are not suffering at all, every little bit helps, whether it's $10 or $10,000. So it's important to keep those things in mind.
Absolutely. That's my philosophy in life too, is, if you're fortunate enough to be doing better than somebody else, for sure, you've got to support our fellow Sudburyans to get through the hard times, and support local as much as you can. And we will get through this. I've got my vaccination, and I'm looking forward to getting the second shot. And I mean, that's not going to be the end of it all, but hopefully, we do get through have some kind of a normal life again, and be with our friends. And
absolutely,
you
get there.
Oh, we will. Yeah, for sure. Some days I actually forget that it's happening, because you go out, you wouldn't know we're on lockdown, actually driving on the road some days. But it's also people coming and going from jobs and going shopping and that. But it just, it's easy to forget what struggles some people are going through, for sure.
For sure. And I'm totally loving the charities doing the dinners in the box.
Yeah, that's a wonderful. There's lots of different initiatives, and people have had they're kind of zigzagging their way through this and trying to figure out, how do I keep my business going and until we can get back to full force. But anyway, well, thank you again, Trina. And we just kind of keep saying the same thing all the time, but it's really important for people to get pre-qualified, get pre-approved from a mortgage specialist such as yourself. But yeah, I always believe in home ownership. So
absolutely, biggest tax-free investment. It's awesome.
Absolutely, and over time it appreciates. So anyway, thank you again, and
thanks, Gwen.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
You too. Take care. Bye now.
Bye.